And I have not seen a movie on Vietnam yet which has really captured that basic truth, the love of American soldiers for one another.
I opened the book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, and I almost immediately came upon the words, Hollywood has gotten the story of the Vietnam veteran wrong every damn time. And I knew then that I had to be a part of getting that story right this time.
It was a Sunday, November 14th, 1965. Before that day, the soldiers of North Vietnam and those of America had never met each other in a major battle.
The U.S. government sent 395 American soldiers into a valley called the Ia Drang in the Central Highlands of Vietnam. Those men were almost immediately surrounded by 1,000 North Vietnamese troops, regular army, hardcore, experienced veterans of Vietnam's previous wars. And thus ensued a battle that lasted for 56 hours.
This is a movie which is covering 3 days of non-stop, intense battle for survival. That's the way it was in Landing Zone X-Ray. It was very profound, very heavy duty.
Hal was brilliant battlefield commander, lieutenant colonel at the time of the Ia Drang. Was very interested in history and the study of battle and battlefield ethics, and I think really loved what he did.
The book had the ring of truth. It had the grit of battle, and it filled me with determination.
I think that Randy has done his homework. He has listened to me, and he's listened to numerous veterans of the battle. Of course, he is creating a motion picture film based on a factual event. And this is a great challenge, to do it and do it right.
Randy gave me the script about, I think it was about 2 years ago. It was like very, in its early stages, he'd just been adapting the book and experimenting with a lot of different ideas. You know, after a lot more meetings with Hal Moore and Joe Galloway and all that, a lot of the guys, it was time to go. Time to go, man.
Action! Group 13! Welcome to the new cavalry. And this will be our horse. Neither the new technology nor your status as officers
will keep you above the danger.
Cut.
A lot of actors are afraid to let the camera look into their eyes. They're enormously reluctant to play earnestness, sincerity, honest feeling, and especially heroism. And Mel is not afraid to have the camera look into his eyes. All that stuff's there.
Randy Wallace wants to show ground infantry battle between men of two great armies fighting for survival.
As the director, I mean, it's like a battle, and he's like the general of this particular campaign. He's doing a fine job. He's a good communicator.
We need to call the play now and hike the ball.
He'll give credit where credit's due. He'll yell at people who are dropping the ball and get everybody working in the one positive direction. And they do those big shots with like 12 elements happening. You know, there's dialogue, bullet hits, there's napalm explosions, squibs on stuntmen, and aircraft flying through, all in the same shot. And it's a very difficult thing to have all that work. More often than not, man, we did it twice, and it worked both times. That's a testament to his ability to rally the troops and have them all perform in unison as one.
I come up and I'm yelling my line, I'm Mel. Then I get up to right here and I'm yelling it back. And action. Action!
The leader will either contaminate his environment and his unit with his pessimism, or he will inspire confidence. Where the hell is everybody else?
Got a lot of balls doing some of the shots he does. I remember the special effects guy coming up to him one day at the monitor, and he said to him, "You really want to do that?" He said to him. And he went, "Yeah, I really want to do that."
I felt people were looking at me going, you know, that whatever question they were asking me, the real question was, are you sure this is going to work? And the answer is, well, no, I'm not sure it's going to work, but it is going to work. We're going to make it work. Together, we're going to make this work.
Randy decided early on that it wasn't to be a film that looked manipulated in any way and given any fashionable look. He wanted it to be really true and honest. We just hinge around and there's Plumley coming up. Once we got into the battle, it became very obvious that this wasn't to be a slick Hollywood-looking picture. It was to look more down and dirty, more documentary feeling. I was really happy with the night footage. What really worked very well, which I'd never used before, and I don't think anybody ever has, was the light source, the lycopodium. So if Mel looked this way just for a beat a certain time, I could cue instantly. I could hit up the light with his eyes. And if he looked away and I didn't want to really see his face.
We're surrounded, but we're holding on, sir.
He could leave them in shadow for as long as you like. And it was like conducting a little orchestra. And a lot of the stuff that we got with napalm and the fireworks, a lot of that stuff you wouldn't think in 1,000 years was for real. Damn it was real, you know, it was live.
The most difficult was making sure the look of the movie said war all the time. And what that entails is keeping up debris, dust, smoke, so that there's never a moment that there isn't what we call a dirty frame. I have a lot of research that my father did on Apocalypse. Took out all the old books, all the war stuff that we had done, started showing film to the director about this is what this looks like, this is what this looks like. How do you feel about that? You know, is this what the look that you want?
Typically, if those were bullet hits, we'd go bam, 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 and we'd blow them up and we're done. With this system that we developed, we can shoot those maybe 6 times. You know?
We used a lot of high explosives on this movie, so you have to know what your explosions will do, how fast the plane's going, what you can put up and how quick he's going to be gone without creating a situation where you literally punch him out of the sky.
I love Julie Moore and just could not have anybody less than wonderful play her. Right from the beginning, it's like, who can be Julie Moore? Madeleine Stowe.
She was with me for 2 days to really learn what it was like to be a service wife. She didn't just walk in and say, I'm doing this part, and walk out. She really cared.
That takes care of food shopping. So item number 2, laundry.
I think people forget that these men have families, and these families have problems, and the wives are left alone to deal with them as best they can, and these women were really up to the task. They really were.
To tell the story, you have to look at the whole story, and the whole story is that soldiers are human beings. They have families.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art. Of all the war films I think I've ever seen, I don't believe I've ever seen the war that went on back home, you know, the internal war, the hell of being the wives and families of these guys. So that this, you know, this film can heal some of that stuff.
That's not been captured in any other film in the scope that's going to be captured in this film.
Action! I have today ordered to Vietnam the Air Mobile Division.
Boot Camp was the celebrity wimp version of Boot Camp, which is a lot easier. And I thought it was hard anyway.
It was basically a 2-week crash course on how to be a soldier.
Go, move! You guys look like soldiers, you gotta be acting, you gotta be staying low. It's pertinent that you're not all single file firing into your buddy's back.
Basically had to go through the script and pick out individual things that I thought would benefit them. And basically make sure that that everything looks like if we took a platoon of soldiers, actual soldiers, and put them in there.
Thank you. Hey, Ben, you get some water?
Come on.
Thank you.
Behind me, the medic truck is treating 7 seriously injured actors. I'm talking about skin abrasions, hangnails. One man actually lost a series of 2, 3, maybe 4 of his hairs from the top of his head. So we're concerned. We're dealing with it right now. We are in a crisis mode, or what I call a CM. And wish us well.
2 miles out, dropping a nap in the earth.
Major Bruce Crandall was head of the air wing of the 7th Cavalry. There was this spirit about Bruce Crandall. As courageous and tough as he was, he had this playfulness, this irrepressible spirit. And Greg Kinnear was just perfect for him.
There was a time and a place where people did extraordinary things for their country and for their fellow man.
He couldn't talk because he's sitting there plugging his throat. You know, a bullet went in here and came out over here. And he's trying to keep himself from bleeding to death.
Hello, Joe. Welcome to Landing Zone X-Ray.
Yeah, man. Where we fought in Vietnam, in the Ia Valley, was a mixture of scrub jungle and open field, much like we're standing on the fringes of now.
It's the highlands of Vietnam, and I think it's actually a blessing that it's the highlands because no one's seen it before. I'm a sculptor, so I have a process of sculpting what the location is supposed to look like. After we cut down all the thickets in the fields, we were left with the chore of planting grass. So we put about 5,000 pounds of different kinds of seed out there. It's not a set we built with wood, it's a set we built with grasses and trees. When I brought Hal out the first Sunday, he went by all the tents and he goes, "There's no piss holes." And it wasn't a suggestion, it was more of an order. You know, there's no piss holes. Yes, sir, we'll have them up there. They didn't really leave us any option not to get it right.
Gentlemen, prepare to defend yourselves.
Sergeant Major Plumley was the head of enlisted men. He was a legendary warrior, a leader of men. He was the man that Colonel Moore looked up to. I don't think there is an actor alive who could have been Sergeant Major Plumley, as well as Sam Elliott.
Always like a free haircut.
He was not a sergeant major, but in his soul, he could just be him.
It's good cop, bad cop. Sam's the bad cop. He goes around and balls people out. He's the sergeant major. Hey, numbnuts, get over here. And, you know, he's like, and I'm the understanding one.
Background, all the extras dead. We'll blow the napalm and the strafing.
Randy really wanted to have this film look as real as possible. And that's what I was determined to give him. The line that you walk also is, what is the audience going to stand for? How realistic do you want to be? To create the grime, we would use a sterile clay, and that was put on really heavily, and then we would carefully wipe it off so it would grind in. They always talk about different war pictures, and did you see that scene, did you see this scene? Well, this has got a whole bunch of those.
To me, it is artwork. It's not just your typical military war film. The uniforms are helping to tell the story as much as the actors are. I mean, some guys could have as many as 10 stages of the same outfit, with Mel having the most.
Beginning of the battle, and then we have the end of the battle. Boots at the beginning, boots at the end.
For the most part, I used original clothing in 1965. Say the Vietnamese looks. It's very specific in General Moore's book, and they're not fighting people that are from a village. We're showing regulars. These guys are the cream of the army of North Vietnam.
I respected that enemy. How well trained they were, how tough they were. And let me tell you, any Vietnam American battlefield commander that did not respect that enemy was due for a hard fall. General An, as a major, he fought the French for almost 10 years. He fought the Americans for almost 10 years. He fought in Cambodia. He fought the Chinese. He fought the Japanese in the early 40s. This man fought wars all of his life. I have a high respect for his memory, and hope to see him again someday.
Hey, you got enough room for one more? If you're crazy enough, get in.
Joe Galloway was a young reporter who worked for Vietnam. Joe was not the kind of guy to sit behind a desk and write his stories based on what other people were telling him. He went out and saw the battles that he covered, and in some cases he went out and fought in those battles. And Barry Pepper's the perfect Joe Galloway.
Barry Pepper's a very impressive young actor and very, very serious about his work.
I'm trying to understand your vision.
We sat and talked for hours. He was interested in what I did, why I did it, how I did it, what my equipment was.
Joe said that, he got all his gear from the black market, and he had a snub nose 38 special.
Even what brand of cigarette I smoked in those years.
I actually made these Winston boxes. I was really taken back with how
truly involved General Moore was and Joe Galloway. And I got them to ask them, you know, what they personally used, what was important for them to see in the movie to make it believable from their standpoint.
Getting period weapons of this kind, and these are period because they're 30 years old, difficult.
We created weapons that have never been used in a movie in this country before. I made a white phosphorus grenade, which was probably never seen and never will be seen in a U.S. war picture again. There's never been a United States-made movie with a real AK-47. We built the weapons from scratch, basically. A lot of what I do is never seen on camera. And I do it to give the actor the feeling that when he sees a prop that has gone to all this detail, he gets into his part even more so. It makes for a better performance. Barry Pepper, for example, talked to Joe Galloway, and he carried these 2 heavy books all the way through the battle, and Barry wanted the same books. Sam Elliott wanted his wife's wedding ring on his dog tag. There's certain things that all the actors did, you know, just to get them into the part to make them feel like they were the person.
The type of computer effects that we're doing on this movie are, well, they're very realistic effects, and they can't call attention to themselves at all. One of the most involved sequences that we did was the napalm sequence. We had amazing fire pyrotechnics on the ground, but we weren't going to have the real aircraft. We knew these were going to have to be computer-generated aircraft, as well as computer-generated napalm cylinders falling through the air. In the computer, they matched the movement of the planes with a simplified, what's called wireframe version of the aircraft, where we could do the animation of them coming into frame, and then layer that over the background plane.
So you have the napalm going off sort of right underneath and behind the plane in that shot. In all of our minds is a question I think that almost every individual must ask themselves. How would we be in a hellish situation? I mean, how would our spirit operate? Would we meet the challenge and perform well under that kind of horrible pressure, where it must be just mindless fear, and it's that desire of all of us to test our spirit.
And background, action!
We had 875,000 feet of film, so that's roughly 150 hours. Take you 6 days, day and night, just to look at the footage. The challenge was to be able to do honor to the men who actually fought this battle, to shortchange that story in some way. That was my greatest fear. The script itself and ultimately the film has the heart and emotion of the book. My favorite scenes are some of the emotional scenes, because the emotional scenes is what makes the action work.
Here I am a father, but I'm going off to war. And you know, with the wives back home having this conversation about, well, you're mad at him because he's supposed to be here, but he's not.
What do you think about being a soldier and a father?
I hope that being good at the one makes me better at the other.
Jack Gagan was a young lieutenant who fought in the Ia Drang Valley. Barbara Gagan was Jack Gagan's wife. She shared with him his missionary work before they joined the military.
Well, Barbara was a very, very dear young lieutenant's wife, and I think Keri Russell portrays Barbara very, very poignantly.
I love Jack very much, but he's supposed to be here. He's supposed to be here with me and Keri.
We worked for the church. He could have had a deferment, but now shh. You're mad at him. Yes.
This is not an action war film. I wouldn't have done it if it was, because I don't think music and battles mix very well. So for me, the music has always been the heart and soul of not only the American soldiers, but also the Vietnamese soldiers, and also all the women and families that they left behind. In this case, I just wanted to try and use one theme for the whole film, a soldier's theme that would relate to everything noble and dignified about fighting wars.
Sound design in a film is something that should be relatively seamless, and you don't want people to be taken out of the story. You want them to be sucked deeper in.
We Were Soldiers probably has over 10,000 gunshots alone. There was over 1,000 tracks on some of the sections of this film. We placed every single gunshot, every single whiz, every single explosion, and all of those things are really like poetry.
There are men and women in this country who are ordered to actually go and deal with things that are difficult to deal with, that most of us don't want to deal with. And they do it in a heroic way. And Hal is one of these guys. He's a knight. He's an old knight in shining armor.
We're moving into the valley of the shadow of death, where you will watch the back of the man next to you as he will watch yours.
A lot of those guys that went there asked themselves, because they're good people, you know, did I do the right thing? And they angst over it, and the memories of all that haunt them still. And I think this film is, for them, like an exorcism of that. It's a moving monument on celluloid. We feel a responsibility to maintain some kind of truth about the whole thing, and accuracy, and not to disappoint them, because they did sacrifice.
My God, what have I become? I can't go home anymore. You know, I took the life of a guy that's no more than what I am. You know, and I just tore him apart.
Action!
The soldiers who came back from Vietnam were never given the gratitude and the respect that their country owed them. If we give that to them, then we've all moved toward being whole.
And that'll be a cut.
They finally got it.